of the world, now I'm living. And the good just gets better, keeps on giving. Not even close to the end, it's just beginning. Life is getting lighter while the days are getting brighter, yeah.
Hi, it's Ann Perry, and today's topic of discussion is a pretty hot topic given the week that we've just gone through. I'm going to be talking about Donald Trump. Now, honestly, I'm a Canadian, so I followed the election probably as closely as many of the Canadians did, but politics is not my thing. People are my thing, and helping everybody see each other in a different light, that's my thing. So many of you have contacted me and said, I really want to know more about this guy. What's Donald Trump all about? So when I opened up his chart and looked at his first 4 core numbers, I'm like, oh wow. All 4 of his core numbers in his chart include a karmic debt. I'm not talking a karmic lesson here. We're talking karmic debts. Okay, these are big ones. So I also want to make it very clear that this is not a Donald Trump bashing opportunity, because this is a learning opportunity. We want to make sure that we see everybody in a different light. I have chosen not to put him next to Hillary, because really that doesn't matter anymore, right? The fact is, Donald is your new president, 45th president of the United States, and I think that it's only fair to take a look at him for who he really is. So without further ado, let's take a look. Okay, so before we go into this, I wanted you to know and remind you that I have created another video, and the video is called How Do I Know I Have a Karmic Debt? So if you're interested in kind of figuring out if you have a karmic debt or not, you might want to skip on over to that video. I've given you the link there, and it sort of helps to understand how we calculate those. Now let's take a look at Donald. Donald was born Donald John Trump. That's his full birth name, and that's what we use when we're looking at anybody numerologically. His birth date is June the 14th of 1946. Okay, the 14th, first karmic debt. Ding, ding, ding. There's one. Life path number is a 13-4. There's another one. The expression number, again, same as the birth date over here. Expression number is a 14-5. The heart's desire, big karmic debt, 16-7. We'll be talking about that soon. And again, the birthday number is on the 14th, so that's a 14-5. So out of all 4 of his his core numbers, the life path, the expression, the heart's desire, and the birthday, every single one of them is a karmic debt. So what does that mean? Well, it tells us that Donald's a very old soul. He's been around. He's walked the planet many times. He's come back many times, and this time he came back to come as the U.S. president. So he's accomplished that. Let's take a look at this further. Okay, first of all, let's take a look at his karmic debt, the 13-4, and this is seen as his life path number. Now, there's lots of positive things to say about the 4. The 4 is very much the builder, and of course, the Trump empire is pretty amazing, and his track record has been pretty darn good in terms of him as a businessman. So, but the karmic debt brings with it a certain degree of frustration, where people with this karmic debt have to work really hard to focus. When we take a look at the karmic debt of the 13-4, we see here that 3. Remember that 3 is always a little bit of an issue around focus, okay? And the 4 is all about the foundation that they're trying to build. So sometimes they experience a little bit of focus. That's him, number 1, experiencing a little bit of frustration or lack of focus, trying to build his foundation. So the reason that somebody has a 13-4 karmic debt is because in a previous lifetime, they were slackasses. Okay, no other way to put it. They were slackasses. They sat back in the lunchroom and ate donuts while everybody else carried the weight. Okay, so he kind of shirked responsibility and he didn't work particularly hard. So in this particular lifetime, he's really made amends for that, because you can say what you want about the guy, whether you like him or you don't. He's a very hard worker, right? And he's definitely put himself out there and created something for himself. So the 13-4 has a lot of obstacles to overcome. Sometimes if you know somebody who just seems to have obstacle after obstacle after obstacle, if you look at their chart, chances are they too have a 13-4. The key to succeeding with the 13-4 karmic debt is focus. Okay, it's all about focus. And the temptation with 13-4 is to take shortcuts. It doesn't always pan out so well. Success doesn't always come, and it causes people to feel a little frustrated and to give up. So, you know what? I think that Donald really has worked very hard to overcome this karmic debt, because that's the whole purpose of a karmic debt. We're coming back to make amends for bad behavior in a previous lifetime. So I think he's worked really hard. Focus doesn't seem to be an issue with him. What is going to be an issue for him is that he doesn't take direction particularly well. So as you look at this little quote I've got over here, this is his quote. It says, "My style of doing things is fairly simple. I just push and I push and I push again what I want to achieve." So that in itself says that he's figured it out, that you just can't give up. You have to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. But again, he's a pretty independent guy, so we'll see how well that fares out for him. Okay, the karmic debt of the 14-5 is seen in his birthday. It's also seen in his expression number. Now, the expression number is where all the talents lie. This is why Donald was like the TV mogul, when he had the TV show The Apprentice that he became so famous for. And, his famous words were, "You're fired." So I wonder how many people in his path he's fired in the past and how many people he'll fire in the future, right? The 5 says he likes the limelight. If he's going to build his foundation, that's the 4 life path number, remember? The 4 is all about building a foundation. If he's going to do that, he has to have a vehicle. He has to have talents to drive him to that, right? So the expression number, in this case, is a 5. So the 5 is the person who likes the limelight. They like the TV. They like the attention. They don't mind doing radio. They don't mind being a little bit obnoxious, a little different, having fun with the audience, picking on people, that kind of thing. Well, I think we can all agree that that's definitely Donald. But when the expression number comes in, or the birthday number comes in as a 14-5, it indicates that there's a karmic debt there. And this karmic debt is as a result of his freedom being abused in a previous lifetime. So that can mean that he was a prisoner or possibly a slave in a previous lifetime. And given his attitude towards refugees and whatnot, I find this one really, really interesting, a little bit boggling, actually, considering that might be where he came from. The 14-5 says he has big lessons to learn about being flexible, being able to see different points of view. He's very much an oak tree, very solid, very grounded. There's no whimsical willow tree happening here. He's just very solid and grounded. He's got these blinders on, and it's his way or the highway. So he has to learn how to be flexible if he's going to be effective. He has the potential to become a slave to his own freedom through the abuse of drugs or alcohol, gambling, all these sorts of things. I don't think that that's his issue. He does have a thing for the ladies. There's no question about that. But I don't know that that's an addiction or whatever. We might not appreciate his opinion towards women. But it is showing, he is kind of known for that, right? So there's a possibility that the 5 has something to do with his interest in women and the way he refers to them. The key to the karmic debt is about commitment and focus, and life will resemble a real roller coaster ride unless you can get very focused. But again, you need to have the flexibility. So when we look up here at the actual number 14-5, the 5 is all about your freedom. The 5 is about flexibility, adaptability, experience, life experience, and looking at things from different people's perspectives, right? But when we look at that 4, the 4 is that unwillingness to bend. It's that solid 4 posts in the ground, and of course the 1 is all about him. So it is possible he was somebody's personal slave. It is possible that he may have had addictions, in a previous lifetime that caused a lot of grief for his family, therefore challenging their freedoms. If he burnt up through all the money, so to speak, maybe he was drinking or gambling or whatever in a previous lifetime, that can have its consequences too. So it'll be interesting to see how this unfolds for him. The 5 also says they'll attract, this 5 sitting here also says that he'll attract a lot of unexpected events. Okay, so it might make him even a little bit more charismatic in front of the TV and more demonstrative in terms of his emotions and very spontaneous to react to things, and maybe he doesn't always think before he speaks. That can be where this is coming from. Okay, the karmic debt of the 16-7. This one's seen in the heart's desire. I took personal interest in this one because my life path number, as some of you know through my other videos, is a 16-7. So boys, oh boys, do I understand this one. When I was teaching numerology several years ago, one of my students, he too had a 16-7 as a life path number, and he stood up in class and he said, "You know what, Anne?" He said, "I'm going to have us some t-shirts made." And I went, "Really, Joe?" You gonna get some t-shirts made? What are they gonna say? And he said, crash, burn, and learn. Because that's the message of the 16-7, right? So I kind of laughed about that because it's true. 16-7s, we have a tendency to kind of rise above everything, and then psh, we blow up our worlds and we crash and we burn, right? Only to resurrect, come through the ashes like the phoenix, and we rebuild again. It's all good. But it can be a little rough at the time. So it's really about the death and the rebirth of the ego, right? Yeah, so it can be a very painful process, and it usually comes after a lot of ego inflation. Did I say ego? I don't know. I'm not sure that I've got, that big an ego, but I know Donald certainly has. So that's just part of who he is. So anyway, we might see some rise and falls with regards to his ego. It can be a very self-destructive karmic debt because it relates to careers. It also relates to relationships. So, somebody with a karmic debt of the 16-7, I can tell you that almost always, I'm gonna venture to say 95% of the time, somebody with a karmic debt of the 16-7 has been married and divorced at least once. Okay, so in this particular case, we look at Donald's record. He's been divorced 3 times. Maybe more at this point. I'm not sure of the time frame on that. I should have done my research better than that, but at least 3 times. 5 bankruptcies, but any good businessman's going to go through a few bankruptcies. 4 draft deferments. Ouch. That kind of hurts in light of everything. Anyway, but it's always about the rise and the fall. And the other interesting thing about the karmic debt of 16-7 might help us to understand him a little bit better. It says that somebody with a 16-7 karmic debt has had affairs in a previous lifetime. This means to say that they would have stepped outside of their marriages, they would have maybe had an affair, stepped outside of their relationships, they caused their partners not to trust them, so, things like that. So I don't know who pulled the plug on his marriages. I don't pretend to know that, but I do know that he has gone through several relationships, and I'm willing to bet that he's probably the one that blew it up. And I'm also willing to bet that there were people that looked around and went, what? He did what? What? He did what? Right? Because, everybody else on the outside was going, well, she was wonderful. They were great together, blah, blah, blah. But see, the 7 energy, they're thinking all the time, right? They've got it all figured out. They're thinking it all the time, but other people don't know that. So when they push that button to explode and implode their worlds, other people are left going, oh, what was that all about, right? So that's a little scary, given that this is a karmic debt for the president. It's a little bit, it's a little scary. Anyway, we'll see how that plays out. All right, this is another one that is not showing in his core numbers, but it's definitely showing in the trends that are affecting him right now. So Donald, when he was elected here now in 2016, as I'm filming this, was in a 2 personal year. Kind of an unusual year, really, to be pursuing something as grand as becoming the president of the United States. Because the 2 energy tends to be a little low in energy. It tends to be the kind of energy in terms of a personal year where you might want to kind of sit on the couch with your significant other and turn on Netflix. It's just not, it's not the kind of year that you'd really be out there campaigning to become the president, because your energy is really low and the focus is more on one-on-one kind of relationships. What I found interesting when I looked at Donald's chart is that he has what's called a 19-1 essence. He's had it for a few years, and he's going to have it for a few years more. This causes him to have an extreme need for independence. His way or the highway. Kicking to the curb anything, bulldozing through everything that is standing in his way of his idea of where he wants to go. So again, this can be a little scary, because when a person is in this 19-1 essence, it comes from their name on the birth certificate, by the way, and it influences how a person will go through their personal years. So when you have this 19-1, it causes you to very, very much stubbornly resist help. I think that the transition for him into the White House is going to be really quite a challenge and a real eye-opener for him, because he's going to need support. He's going to need guidance. He's going to need other advisors to help him along the way to get the job done. So he can't do this entirely by himself. I will say that that's one thing that Hillary did have going on for her, was that she was able to kind of build bridges rather than blow them up, right? And I'm not saying she would have been the right one. I'm not saying he's the right one. That's not a judgment call here. I'm just saying that her chart was a lot more conducive to building relationships with people and taking into consideration people's opinions and having the social graces, if you will, with which to handle that. Donald, on the other hand, can sort of rub people the wrong way and tear down relationships. So with him having that 19-1 essence sitting there, it might be a little bit of a difficult transition for him. I think it's 2.5 years from now before he comes out of that. And then he goes into a different essence that'll be a little bit more supportive to the role that he's taken on. So it's interesting, he makes me think of the mother bear, the mother bear, when you come across the mama bear in the woods, right? And she's got all her baby cubs around her and you walk up to her. What does she do? Well, she gets up like this. She gets up big and ugly and she gets in your face and she's yelling and screaming and she's pointing the fingers and she's having her tantrum. Well, why does she do that? Well, some people would say, well, because she's angry. Is she? Is she really angry? What is she feeling, right? She's not feeling angry. She's scared, right? She's freaking scared. So what's she going to do? She's going to push you away. She's going to make herself look really big and ugly and point the finger at you and make you go away kind of thing because she's got everything under control. Donald's got some very, very hypersensitive energy in his chart, and it would just take me way too long to go into all of that. But I want you to know that he has, there are things we look at as a numerologist, things called the lines of Pythagoras. And when numbers all line up in this chart of lines of Pythagoras, it shows strengths. Hillary had I believe it was 3 lines of Pythagoras that were solid, 2 or 3 anyways. He's got none. He's got hypersensitivity in his chart. Okay, he's got a lot of really good qualities in there too. Don't get me wrong, but it makes me nervous. There's one line of super hypersensitivity goes straight across, and there's nothing in it, which tells me that he's going to be very volatile. He doesn't like to be criticized. He doesn't like to be, poked at. He's like poking the bear, right? So it'll be really interesting to see how he matures into this role. I think he's got, some great ideas and whatnot, but again, it really doesn't matter what I think. It's the reality of what it is. And it's anyone's guess how this is going to go. That's it. I promised myself I wouldn't do this, but I did. And I hope that it proved to be useful and helpful to you. You know what? My whole life as a numerologist is all about helping you to see yourself in a different light and to see other people in a different light. The whole world is reeling because of this decision. Half of America did not want him and half of America did. So who's right, who's wrong? We don't know. Give the guy a chance. Let's see if we can, be supportive of the decision that the Americans came with, and let's go with that. In the meantime, I would love it if you connect with me. I am available at AnnPerryNumerologist.com. I have a website there, and there's all kinds of information further to numerology that I post there. My Facebook page, always something new every day going on there. Would love it if you would like me on Facebook and share my stuff. And of course, subscribe. You know what? That's the only way you're going to know what's going on. If there's a video that I haven't created that you're interested in, that you'd like for me to create, let me know. I'd love to hear from you. There's some specials on the website right now for some readings. I do professional readings. I would love to connect with you to help you to see yourself in a different light as well. Anything I can do, let me know. I so appreciate your time that you've taken to watch this, and I hope that we'll have the chance to connect personally. Hoping you're having a super day. Take care, everybody. Bye now.